usually, okay, so when you design a system, when you design an architecture of a system, so these are there are certain areas which needs to be focused to completely develop a system without any flaw. That is, you need to decompose the architecture into different subsystems, and then provide details to the components, and then define the system interfaces, that is the interconnection between different subsystems or components, and then model the system dynamic behavior, that is how the system starts up and then moves over a transient phase and then stabilizes and then corrects the error response and provides the desired output. So how the system dynamic behavior is modeled, and then how the system security, performance, and safety features are ensured, so that they are incorporated in the architecture of the system. Basically, architecture specification will include all the details of the system with the interfaces, the different interfaces, and then the whole system description will be available, so that the different subsystems, say for example, any automotive system will be containing three components like software, hardware, and mechanical. So there will be interface between hardware and mechanical, and mechanical, and software and hardware. So these interfaces have to be defined, and the interaction between these components have to be made so that everything work in sync and then provide the desired response. So likewise, our system, which has two major subsystems, cameras and the drive monitoring system, ECU. So the camera has to be decomposed into individual subsystems or components inside. So the camera will be having the mechanical or optical component called lens that will collect the light from the outside, and then it will have a CMOS image sensor that can operate in RGB, that is a visible spectrum, and the near infrared spectrum. And the image sensor will be powered from a primary power supply that drives two secondary power supplies, one for the image sensor and the other for serializer. Okay, serializer, to be short, it is a component that takes in a parallel stream of data. Say for example, a 12-bit data is taken in, and then 12-bit data is serialized into a single bit stream at a higher speed and a clock signal, so that the start and end of the 12 bits is identified during a serial 1-bit stream, so that it can be the 12-bit data pattern can be rebuilt. So it will basically the camera will contain two electronic components, basically three electronic components. One is the image sensor, and then the other one is a serializer. The image sensor usually is taken from a leading supplier called Omnivision Technologies, which is a market leader in this imaging systems. And then serializer, Texas Instruments is a market leader in serializer and deserializer components. So serializer takes in a parallel stream. You can compare serializer with the multiplexer, which will take multiple inputs and provide a single output. So like that, serializer takes in multiple inputs and provides a single bit data stream. And deserializer does the opposite action. So it takes in a bit stream and then constructs into a parallel data stream. So there will be synchronization signals between. So you can compare a pixel with the matrix, so that the rows and columns will be constructed using the horizontal and vertical synchronization signals, and the individual bit duration is defined by the pixel clock signal. And there will be two power supplies, one because these are from different suppliers. Image sensor is from one supplier, and serializer is from one supplier, so they'll be operating in different power ratings. So there will be two power supplies, secondary power supply 1 and secondary power supply 2. And then there will be a low pass filter, which takes power from the ECU so that the glitches and AC components will be avoided. And EEPROM basically stores the intrinsic parameters, that is a configuration parameters of serializer, configuration, both identification parameters of serializer and image sensor. You can take example like the serial number of the image sensor and the serial number of serializer, and then the firmware version that is used in image sensor and serializer. So these kind of identification parameters are being used inside the being stored inside the EEPROM. So the another mechanical component that is present here is the FAKRA connector. So basically, it's a connector that connects to the pigtail. Pigtail is a small wiring harness, which is a two twisted coaxial cable that is connected to the FAKRA connector, which picks up the LVDS signals and transmits it to the ECU. So this is a ECU architecture decomposition. So here, the choice of the components is made based on the customer specifications. Say, for example, if the customer or the OEM wants a 2 megapixel data stream at say, for example, it's 1280 cross 780 bits resolution. So the choice of the image sensor and the serializer is depending on the output that the camera is able to provide. So the image sensor is capable of providing the particular data that is specified by the customer. And if the serializer is capable of operating or capable of taking in that 12-bit data stream at that speed, then we will be able to opt for that components. So basically, the choice of the components is based on the study of the requirements and the market leadership and cost of the different suppliers that can provide those components for constructing the system. So similarly, the similar approach is being followed for the ECU architecture decomposition. So we have the data stream from the cameras. So the camera data stream from the cameras. So the camera serial, the 1-bit serial data stream from the cameras is taken, and it is reconstructed into the 12-bit data stream, which actually originated from the image sensor, and then using a deserializer. Here, the deserializer is used is also from Texas Instruments, because the counterpart pair of the of this deserializer, that's a serializer, is also from Texas Instruments. So the image signal processor. The image signal processor is usually, since we choose image sensor from Omnivision, usually the image signal processor is also chosen from Omnivision, so that the processing will be, the configuration will be easy. So we have some image signal processors that are capable of performing the image quality improvement operations like filtering, denoising, gain control, additive white balance. You see, these are some of the image processing operations that are performed on the image to improve the image quality. Before here, I have represented one camera, because one camera is sufficient enough to perform the drive monitoring function. But in case of surround vision system, there will be 4 cameras which data stream will be provided, and 4 cameras will be handled by different image signal processors. So here for DMS, we have only one image signal processor. But if you go for complex vision ECUs, it will be having multiple image signal processors. And then there will be a system controller which will act as a host or the master controller of this ECU, where basically it starts up the system and power ups. After the system controller is powered up, it all starts powering up the other ICs inside the other ICs inside the controller, and other ICs inside this ECU, and then checks the health and performs a reset or any safety response mechanism in case of malfunctions of any electronic components inside the ECU. So basically, the operation that happens here is the PMIC, the power management IC, regulates the power to almost all the components, including the system controller, video processor, image signal processor, and then the video process and the deserializer draws power from the image signal processor through the back channel, and the other components are powered by the systems to where this is attached. So the video stream that comes from the image signal processor after image quality operations is being processed by the video processor, and then it provides inputs. It provides, the video recording can be done by using USB 2.0 interface, and the interface between system controller and video processor is through I2C or SPA, where the messages that are related to the driver behavior and what are all the parameters that needs to be measured from the driver behavior data that comes from the image signal processor is being transmitted to the system controller through SPA or I2C channels, and then again it gets converted into packed in CAN messages and sent to the cockpit controller. So the video processor is usually from two leading companies. One is Texas Instruments, other one is Infineon. Mobileye. Infineon is basically the system controller is either from Renesas or Infineon. So these two are the market leaders in system controller, and Texas Instruments and Mobileye are the market leaders in video processor. And this is how the system interfaces are defined. The system interfaces are the individual connections between the individual connections. The individual connections are between the individual components inside the ECU. Say, for example, the CMOS image sensor will be interfaced with the serializer using a 12-bit video output interface that is a parallel connection, and LVDS is an interface between the serializer and the deserializer. DVP is a different form of LVDS called differential voltage protocol, and ISP has a DVP interface between the video processor and ISP is image signal processor, and the host microcontroller unit or the system controller has SPA interface between the video processor and host MCU. And then this memory interface, there are different types of memory interfaces used for DDR3 RAM, EMIF, that's external memory interface bus is used, and for interfacing external memory card, H.264 hardware to interface with the H.264 hardware encoder, and GPMC is a general purpose memory controller is used to interface between NOR flash, and I2C communication is used to interface EEPROM and the video processor. And central gateway ECUs interfaced using a high-speed CAN network. And apart from this, there are algorithms which will take in the data and process to identify, to quantify the driver detection and gaze detection are running in different cores of the video processor to compute the data and then transfer that to the host MCU using SPA messages. So this is how system dynamic behavior is being modeled. So when the DMS, usually before the driver enters or the ignition is on, the ignition is off, DMS ECU will be in sleep mode. When KL15 or the T15 is on, the DMS goes to a startup phase, and then it checks for the. Yes.
Hi. So like a student, he is asking, what is the full form of DMS in ECU architecture?
DMS is driver monitoring system ECU.
Okay, thank you. I think Suhas, you got it.
Yeah.
You can continue.
Okay, so on the startup phase, it checks for the system health, power, and the firmware boot up, temperature, and communication interfaces, everything. And if any of these fails, the drive monitoring system will go to an alert state, will try to reset and clear the errors. And if it is not able to reset after the it's not able to clear the errors after the reset, it'll again go to the sleep state. And then after the DMS startup, if all the electronic components inside will be switching on one by one: system controller, PMIC, ISP, camera, vision processor, memory units, communication interfaces, system health. Everything will be on, and then it goes to the active state. And from the active states, the DMS ECU will be proceeding to give the functional outputs through the CAN communication to the cockpit controller. And then in case of failures during active state, in case of failures, it will go to alert state. And then after reset, it will go to normal active state once again if the errors are cleared on reset. So usually this is a system response that is being classified and sent from the video processor to system controller as CAN messages, as SP messages, and then packed into CAN and then sent it to the external cockpit controller. So basically 4 parameters are mentioned: driver drowsiness detection, gaze detection, system health status, and temperature. So there are different measures that are defined by the algorithm, and then the data position will be identified, and then the messages will be packed and then sent. So these are the usual responses that we measure for driver drowsiness detection and gaze detection. Health status and temperature are additional safety parameters that will be measured to make sure that the individual components inside are normal. And system program, like I explained before, this is the system programming architecture, where the central gateway ECU will be able to access the host MCU, and then it will be able to program the different components inside the mission control unit. So if we can update the firmware for host MCU or the vision processor and the ISP using the central gateway ECU through CAN communication interface. And these are the usual system safety, security, and performance features that are measured. So performance is like how quick the system should respond, how quick the system should start up. So these are all the examples of the performance specification, and what is a loss that is bearable by the system when the signal transmits from one state, one phase to one component to another component, so that the decisions made by the system are rational, and it is not a wrong calculation. And how much resources should be utilized. Like in any ECU, the memory and computation power are the resources, and hence 80% is the maximum. That's the usual standard that is allowed. And the signal loss from the camera to the DMS ECU through pigtail harness shall be less than 20 dB. Is at least half of the signal should get transmitted from one component, camera to DMS ECU, so that it can be properly reconstructed. And then the DMS ECU shall start providing the driver monitoring signal inputs from the head unit. Head unit is basically the cockpit display that you can see the vehicle head unit to the vehicle network within 3 seconds of ignition on. and the camera shall start streaming the cockpit video. I mean, that camera should be powered up and start providing the first valid frame of data within 600 milliseconds. That is a usual threshold that is set up for the performance. The architectural, safety is like there will be some potential failures that are possible in the system. The camera can provide a frozen image or a delayed image or an incorrect image, so that we need to identify certain mitigation strategies or the strategies that can avoid these kind of errors. And usually the architecture specification will be comprised of this system safe states and the remedial actions that a system will take in case of failures. And security is basically safeguarding the system from the external threats. So usually nowadays all the systems are getting interconnected to the external network or the web. So the cybersecurity measures are also in place usually for the system, because since over-the-air update feature is available for the system that we are discussing, usually cybersecurity features like encryption mechanisms, digital signatures and certificates, and integrity checks of the data that is being handled or being done by the DMS ECU, so that it is compliant to cybersecurity standards that are specified by the customer OEM. And the hardware packaging will also be compliant to cybersecurity standards. And the hardware debug ports or the programming ports will be disabled after the completion of programming phase. These are some of the standards that are used, standard procedures that are used while we are designing a system. Okay, so next two slides I'll be giving an overview of the process model in the automotive industry and different roles that are available in the automotive industry, right from the beginning as well as the mid-career and the top management levels. The traceability, this is basically an A-SPICE model. A-SPICE is the automotive SPICE. That's a process capability, improvement and maturity, specific maturity model that is used as a guideline for different phases of the product development. So we have different phases like stakeholders, basically the customer requirements. The customer requirements are decomposed into the system requirements, and the system requirements are again decomposed into system architecture. And from the system architecture, the software requirements, mechanical requirements, and hardware requirements are derived. And then from the software requirements, a detailed software design architecture, and the detailed design is derived. And then from the software detailed design, software units are being developed. And then I think most of you will be aware of the V model, where the counterpart testing phase is associated with every development phase. So I think I don't have to brief on the testing phase. And these are the roles in the different levels. So they're like, since you have a requirements engineering phase, the most important role here in requirements engineering phase is system requirements engineer, and the skills which are necessary for becoming a system requirements engineer is you need to be well versed with the standard requirements engineering techniques that are used with the different organizations. And then there is a international organization called International Requirements Engineering Board that will define the usual processes and methods that are used for the requirements engineering. And then IBM Rational Doors is a tool that is used for implementing requirements engineering and management techniques, inside the project. And the soft skills are very important. Like you need to have a customer communication and handling multiple stakeholders, and handling the pressure from multiple stakeholders for developing and convincing them to accept the requirements, and follow-ups and reviews. And it would be good if you are able to pursue the IREB certification and get certified, which would be an added value in your CV if you are trying to pursue system requirement engineer roles. And requirements manager is one similar role one role that is similar to a system requirements engineer, where it involves requirements engineering, but the focus is more on the management than requirements development, and IBM rational doors, and as well as soft skills, including customer communication, handling multiple stakeholders, and IRB certification. And software developer. So basically, most of the automotive industry for application software development, it is using model-based development techniques. So MATLAB, Simulink, ETAS, ASCII, and C programming. These are the skills that you will be requiring to try to enter into this role. And software developer, for base software development, you'll be requiring C programming and AUTOSAR configuration if you're intending to pursue a career in base software development. And a system test engineer, there are more opportunities for Hill validation. Hill is hardware in loop system validation, where you'll be involved in testing the real ECU interfaced with the test bench. So these two are the important, the prominent Hill systems. ETAS and DSpace are the prominent Hill systems that are used in the automotive industry. And we'll be, and if you're able to get trainings on these ETAS and DSpace systems and get hands-on in any project, it'll be good to become a system test engineer. Python scripting, and system test engineer for vehicle validation is you need a driving license and the training on vehicle electronics and tools to test the real vehicle and the software. And the functional safety engineer. So this is one of the recent trends or the roles that are available in the automotive industry, where ISO 26262 training and certification would be helpful to enter this role. And if you see in the mid-career, for systems engineering and requirements management, systems engineering manager is a role that is in the mid-career level, which will include the technical skills which I briefed above. Along with that, the project management skills, planning, and project management professional certification would be necessary to would be a really good advantage to. I would not say it is necessary, but it's really good to have to pursue this career. And software development manager is, along with the above skills for model-based development and base software development, it would be necessary to have project management skills, planning, and PMP certification. And for test manager, so as usual, this project management skills, planning, and PMP. Along with that, if you have pursued ISTQB, that's International Software Testing Qualifications Board, that would be a good certification to have, but it's not mandatory. And for systems, it is systems architect, and for software, it is software architect and functional safety manager. So these are the roles that are counterparts for the entry-level roles in the mid-career level. And the top management is usually a center general manager who handles the complete center, and the chief engineer or customer director in case of product development centers. So these are the companies which you can target for automotive suppliers and components in India as well as abroad. So the top supplier is Robert Bosch, and then usually they hire a lot every year, but I don't know about this year, but usually they hire a lot of a lot of freshers or people with less than 2 or 3 years of experience. So other companies are also involved in hiring, but I'm not sure about the current market trend in India, but these are the companies that you can focus. And maybe you can, if you're interested to join the automotive industry, you can keep checking the websites and then keep applying for the positions that are available in India and abroad to pursue a career in the automotive industry. Yeah. Okay, that's it from my side. Thanks.